need to do at the workplace.
Yeah.
We thank you once again, Dr. Basirat Akombi, for your thoughts. Thank you for sharing those ideas with us and things that we need to do, the precautionary measures, the preventive measures, and even the suggestions you made for organizations. Well, they can't get buses now, but they can rent, which is very, very, very good, very good advice. So as we go into the workplace, a governor was saying earlier today that that we're in a trilemma. That it's not just a dilemma, that we're in a trilemma, and that trilemma involves lives, livelihoods, and liberty. But again, we are reopening the economy. From Monday, workplaces will be open, and there's no other person to share the essentials of the workplace, things that we need to do to get our workplaces running, than Mr. Bola Kamil Abiodun. Let's welcome Mr. Abiodun to share with us. You're welcome, GK.
Thank you very much for this webinar section. And I want to say that my first panelist has actually elaborated on what is required. But I'm just going to put that into context now in terms of occupational health and safety. Whatever she has put together from the medical point of view is what we want to drive through our risk management process now to be able to put into perspective, knowing fully well that we've gotten a risk in our hands now. She has just put it up to us. We now know that we have a risk of transmission with a high speed of getting these from human to human, across travels, integrations, and urbanizations or movement of people. Based on these risks that she has enumerated for us, that's also the risk of exposure in the workplace in public space. We have high impact on businesses and economy and disruption to work and life, and the livelihood of every individual at the workplace is going to change. So that means our cultural behaviors in terms of health and safety management have to change. And this change needs to be systematically managed. So we're going to be using the risk assessment approach in order to manage this risk from identifying. When we say identifying what could cause the injury, she has just said a lot about that. We know that our hazard is just right here, and the likelihood and the seriousness of this coming to life is also very clear to us, looking at the numbers that we've recorded globally and locally here in Nigeria. We also have here various control measures that we're going to be putting in place. Like she has enumerated, it's just for me to just share what happened right there in South Africa, where we have a facility where 99 workers knowingly or unknowingly was tested positive to the coronavirus in a factory there in Cape Town. And that's to tell you that we have a risk in our hands that we need to manage as we are planning to unlock the system for us to return back to work. So to do that, we're going to be looking at the highest, we're going to be looking at the risk using the hierarchy of control here. We now know that we cannot eliminate this risk. There is no vaccine at the moment, like it has been enumerated to us. We cannot substitute it. It's an hazard that we cannot substitute at the moment. But definitely, yes, we still have a succor. And that's for us to now put the engineering control, the administrative control, applying the personal protective equipment. However, these control measures need to be systematically aligned for us in a way where it's being documented like a guideline or a protocol, depending on what you think in your organization. And it's for an SME, you can also do a one-page document on how you want to systematically control this risk. And controlling engineering-wise, we said isolate the people from the hazard. There are various measures that she has also enumerated. So we're going to be putting them in this perspective that particular preventive measure on control is under engineering control. And what are we doing? We're trying to isolate people from that hazard. And one of those measures we're going to be seeing them further. Also, we have administrative control. We're going to change the way people work now. She has also mentioned distancing. So we're going to be having distancing in the workplace. We're going to have workstation change. The way we socialize is going to change at the workplace because of our own health and safety requirement, knowing fully well in your mind that your own safety is your responsibility. The business owner is going to do what he's supposed to do if the law applies, require him to do in case there is any issue legally for him to say, what are you doing? Show us what you're doing. And they will be able to show a systematic process which they have put in place to protect the workforce and other stakeholders within their work environment. So she has mentioned the PPE, which is the last resort. protective equipment. That means if all other layers of control is being failed based on your own behavior or your own attitude, if you have the PPE on, that will be able to capture some of these risks, and then you are not likely to be exposed one way or the other. So why putting risk preventions and control measures in place? From the point of the business owners and employer, it's a duty of care. And some of them are doing it out of impulse. But it's good for you to know that it's also a legal requirement. The Nigerian system is trying to unlock the system globally. They're trying to unlock that business can come back alive. However, the Nigerian labor law, like any other labor law in any country, has a requirement in place and is always similar. Take all practical steps to ensure that work is free from risk of personal injury or danger to his or her health in the course of work or while in a lawful presence within your premises as an employer. Also the ILO. So if you are not having a system in place, a law in place in your own country, your various nations are signed to these conventions by the ILO. The ILO, International Labour Organization, Occupational Health and Safety Convention 155, and a recommendation 164 was signed by various countries, which also point to that element of risk control of environment, that you need to put a measure in place. And you've also been advised to provide, where necessary, adequate protective clothing and protective equipment. So it's into law, like my colleagues shared earlier, and also provide, where necessary, measures to deal with emergency and accident, including adequate first aid arrangement. So these are some of these things that we need to comply within the workplace, to restructure the workplace and also put it in a documented format as a procedure or a system where people need to apply. Also, as workers in the workplace, we provide legal duty for employees as well. So the Occupational Health and Safety at Workplace provides legal duty for employees as well. Also in the labor law and in the ILO, you have a duty to also lawfully take instruction from your employer and execute them as advised. Exercise duty of care in the execution of assigned work. That's to tell you that you also have responsibility for the safety of other people that might be affected by the kind of work we are doing at the workplace. So you need to also think about other people and ensure that they are protected when you are working around them. So you need to be able to say, excuse me, can you maintain the safe distance? I would like to move to the next level. You must engage each other. So the ILO convention also have duties for employees as well and the workforce. You have a right to receive adequate information and training on occupational health and safety. So if you are not even informed, you can request to say, please, we are going to be doing this now. Can we know how we have to? Because your workplace is going to change. All employer and business owner are putting measures in place. But from the health and safety point of view, you need to document it in a systematic manner and be able to show it as an evidence on what you're doing differently. This slide is also showing you the risk again and telling you what are those identified signs and symptoms of COVID-19. I don't want to go into it, but the key point I want you to look at here is the symptom that will actually take effect, which you've been asked 40 days after an exposure to someone with COVID-19. What I'm saying is that it doesn't manifest immediately in some people, and it will actually take enough days to take effect. So if you are exposed, you are a carrier as well. So it's better to isolate and be able to see the symptom play out and be treated before you can go further. And she has also identified the vulnerable people. So the vulnerable person at workplace is very important to identify them. If you have any age worker, the chairman, board member that's always in the workplace, maybe doing some other things for the chief executive of the system, will be advised to stay at home and work from home. She has mentioned the long-term health conditions. Also, one vulnerable person is also the pregnant people that work within your, make them to work from home. That's some of the measures you're going to put in your guideline as you proceed. So we've mentioned about isolations of droplets, which is one of the transmission and spreading of all this to maintain the distance of 2 meters. So you're going to see, she has mentioned the surfaces as well, the contaminated surfaces that you are going to encounter in the workplace. From your turnstile, to your to your to your to your lift, to your doorknob, to your rails in the office for use that use the handrails to go, and also to also be able to hug and wish each other welcome back to work after a long time. The handshake you give, all these you have to stay away from this, and it has to be implemented at workplace. So there must be an aid memo to remind us of these requirements. My colleague in the panelist has mentioned this earlier as well. So you need to have an aid memo to take care of all these in a procedural manner, and everybody must be briefed, oriented, trained to be able to apply these in line with the law requirements to maintain a safe workplace for workers as we tend to move in. That's why we need to actually do this transition in batches at the workplace. That's what is recommended for most workplaces, so that all workforce will not come at once. You come in phases. So you need to type of the surface the virus is on. So at your workplace, identify the areas where you know that, okay, these are areas. And those sites, depending, it's a metal, a wood, a glossy surface, a sticker surface, and the exposed environment. Is it sunny from that environment? Then difference in temperature and humidity. My colleague also mentioned that earlier. So what you have to do to manage this risk, we said prevention and control is also right there in the hierarchy of risk control, where we're looking at as prevention and control. So these control measures are all measures that we need to put in place. Prevent measures in the workplace needs to be in place as we plan to open the business post-lockdown. And these need to be documented systematically, and people need to be aware of this. So all these preventive measures, which he has mentioned, needs to be put in the workplace as in signs, as an aid memo to remind people, have you seen that? You need to keep the distance. You need to keep away from the workforce. You notice a colleague that is sick, you need to be able to advise him, please, it's better you stay at home and not come to the work environment. And all these preventive measures are what we need to keep to. Watching your hand hygiene, covering up when you have to cough, and avoiding touching surfaces as well, and cleaning with disinfectant. And all these measures and controls, and in the long run, comes with a risk as well. If you take an example of your constant disinfectant as against the way you normally clean, maybe one off in a day or twice in a day, depending on the kind of work environment you have, now you have to be doing it frequently. So you are going to be interacting with those chemical agents, and they also come with a side effect as well. These are areas, is another risk that we need to capture and also put control measures in place. Yes, there are lots of control measures out there. Going into them is also a risk. So we need to systematically look at what is suitable for your own work environment. So I'm sharing this with you. These are control measures which was put up there by the American Society of Safety Professionals. And these are PPEs that we need to use at the workplace in terms of part of the PPE to make a barrier between the virus in the air and the environment. So you have swipe as well, showing there. Mandatorily, it's compliance to write a procedure, a guideline to drive the implementation of the process, like I said earlier. And I must say, the leadership commitment is key. Leadership should be seen to take the lead, to walk the talk, whichever procedures you are putting in place. Without the leaders also demonstrating it, I know the workforce will not really comply as expected and will be thinking it's a child play. But however, the workforce need to know that their safety is their responsibility. So we have all these signs for communication. Effective communication is key in this light that we're talking about at the moment now. We need to maintain effective communication. So our workplace need to change in terms of safety signs we have at the workplace. You need to have this aid memo to remind people. These are some of the administrative control we have to put in place, and also be able to have a brief and training section to share with the workforce for them to understand what it takes to keep a safe workplace and what all these signs are communicating to them, and be able to share it to their various colleagues if at any point in time they are absent-minded and they are not looking in the right direction to ensure the transmission and spread is flattened as expected globally. For effective communication, these are other signs that is also applicable to be able to put in the workplace to remind our visitors and also to remind ourselves of the mandatory requirement. Social distancing, maintaining the 6 feet distance It's all requirement that we need to keep reminding ourselves and be able to point to it and let ourselves in the workplace to be able to be guided accordingly. Above all, I must let you know that it is very important to have a competent person. An occupational health and safety professional must be made available to drive this within your organization, because they are the one competent and trained with the required experience to drive this process and also monitor this process for it to be more effective at the workplace. They are to promote the understanding of the disease and its symptom, verify and facilitate the access to the information. They need to support regular risk assessment and management process and update risk procedure and action plan, manage current and within their operations. So they need to help in development or update of risk plan for the prevention and containment, prevention, containment, and mitigation, as well as recovery plan in their work environment. They need to relate and interface with the emergency response agency. Like my colleague said, the National Center for Disease Control, you must be able to have their emergency contact, have a conversation, and ensure that you have that preparedness in case you need to have to call their attention. You need to maintain an engagement with personnel. This is a time that we must maintain communication with the workforce and maintain utmost confidentiality of personal information that is being divulged to you by personnel. So you need a competent person that knows what it means to maintain the GDPR regulations, the global data or information retainership and control. Using it for the purpose which it was communicated to you is very, very vital. So in an emergency, you need to keep the emergency response contact, increase collaboration with government and crisis response management in your location, update your emergency contact numbers, because that is going to change. So you need to change. If you are an SME, then you need to put a plan in place. For if it's a conglomerate, you already have maybe an HSE management system that you have to run your system, and you have a risk register. You need to be able to update those and also update your emergency contact number with the examples of numbers that we have here. So you need to update your emergency contact number. We need to let you know that you have to do that as we go on. If there is any opportunity that you need to have that conversation, I'm always available. But you must remember that your safety is your responsibility at all time. Thank you very much. I have references there. Once again, my name is Abiodun Camille Bolaon. I'm the past president of the American side of safety engineer. And thank you for having this section and passing the communication to the entire team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, GKO, Mr. Bolaon Camille Abiodun. Thank you for your thoughts for the workplace. And you said if we have identified the risk, which we know is COVID-19, you talked about the hierarchy of controls, elimination, substitution, engineering and administrative controls, and of course, preventive measures. Thank you very much for your brilliant thoughts for the House. We welcome our participants from all over. We see you, Ramatu Ibrahim Aduna. We see you, David. We see Alima, Shola. We see Ukachi. We see Olumide. We see Oscar. Thank you very much for being a part of this webinar. Mr. Camille talked about the duty of care from the employers to the employees. Keeping the workplace safe is a duty of care. And to enlighten us more on this and to throw more light on it is our senior HR practitioner and past chairman of the Lagos branch of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Mrs. Chidi Obiejesi. Mrs. Obiejesi, you can take it from here.
Thank you so much, Afolabi and the others, for this opportunity to share. My name is Mrs. Chidi Obiejesi, and I'm a HR practitioner. Our duty here is to look at the rules of new engagement for a safe post-lockdown workplace from the HR angle. So looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, if you see my screen, you will see what I have put there. It is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In the HR space for a while, what have taken our conversation, what we've been talking about is about VUCA, changes, disruption. And in my lifetime, this is one situation I've seen that fully meets all these characteristics. Looking at it, the COVID-19 pandemic came in, disrupted the workplace, disrupted lives, disrupted businesses. And government, in the bid to fight this pandemic, decided to put in measures in place, measures which has also affected the workplace greatly. If it has affected the workplace, workers are affected. For Nigeria, and so is other countries, we are just coming out from a 1-month lockdown, which meant that workers were at home, except for essential services. Few days ago, the government announced that we'll be returning to work on Monday. What do? Let's not forget that it's a new experience for the employees. It's a new experience for workers. Some of us have not seen this before. As a result, it's the duty of our HR practitioners in organizations to lead discussions and implementation in situations like this, implementation of business continuity plans, while ensuring that the health, safety, and security of employees are not undermined. HR practitioners need to put in appropriate measures that will help achieve a safe and healthy workplace as workers return to work post-lockdown. What do we need to do? Let's not forget that it's a new environment, new situation. Workers have not seen this before. Businesses have not been through this before. As a result, we will need guidelines. We'll need to take some steps. We can't just push them back to the workplace. They are waiting to hear from the organizations. They are waiting to hear from the HR practitioners. They need to know what to do. One of the things we need to do, like my colleagues have said, is to identify and assess our risk exposures. Recall that risks depend on the nature of your business, what industry you are, the nature of your work. We assess how exposed we are, our employees can be exposed to the infection. We then provide guidelines. Government have said return to work. They have also provided guidelines. Operate with 60% of your capacity, the capacity of your employees. They gave resumption time and closing time. We need to explain, let the workers know what they need to do. How do they come to work? What is required of them? What is our expectations of them? What are those things provided in terms of safety to protect them from infection? Everybody is scared. So they are also wondering, I've had people call to ask me, what are we going to do? Are they expected to put on PPEs? Government have made nose masks compulsory. What are we going to do about that? Will their work change? Will they still come into the office as usual? Or will they need to work from home? They need our guidance. They are expecting us to talk to them. Then we review and update our policies. And looking at my slide there, you will see I put keys. Keeping in mind, while updating and reviewing policies, we need to keep in mind what we need to keep. Some of us are already doing some things that are still relevant. Some of us have gone remote even before now. Some of us have gone paperless before now. We may need to keep. Then we look at processes that processes of work that are outdated, things we need to change that are no more relevant to the situation. Those we need to stop. That is, as we stop. Then things we need to improve on. We're probably doing something, but need to do it better. We need to do it differently. That is the improvement, the I there. Then things we need to start. Are there things we've not been doing before that we should start doing now? We need to look at that. An example is, for instance, our sick leave. Do we still need to require doctor's report in this situation where people need to go for isolation if an employee calls and says he's not feeling well? Then we implement actions and control. There are some that will be implemented collectively and others will be implemented individually. Controls. These controls are just putting in place plans to reduce risk of exposure to infection and related issues. I mean, once people are infected, there is fear, there is stress, there is depression. There's even security issues there. We understand what happened here a few days ago. At the end of it, whatever we put in place, the one goal that should be in mind is that it's all about employees' safety and security. These controls could be environmental. My colleague has explained that it could also be individual and administrative. Environmental. We may begin to look at the ventilation of our office space, facilities provided for employees, their work tools. A lot of people, the work tools they use may have to change. Adaptation of the workspace. Do we need our workplace to be so jam-packed, so clustered? The layouts, frequent cleaning, those are the things we need to begin to think of as HR. Then for the individual, yes, my colleagues have talked about PPEs, but we need to train them on how to use PPEs, use the face masks and others. People like me have never used face masks before. So proper usage of those PPEs are trainings we need to let them know. We need to let them know the importance of social distancing and how they can maintain that. Physical distancing and how they can maintain that. Maybe we revert to using intercoms to communicate with our colleague rather than physical interaction. I work in an organization, for instance, where you see people come together, chat, talk, and all that. All that have reduced. Now you sit in your office, you want to talk to your colleague, you need to walk down there and talk to your colleague, and you need to call the colleague rather than walk to the office. Then we look at the administrative controls, update policies. As HR person, we know what policies we use, the staff handbook, our leave policies, our travel policy. For instance, in this situation, offices are going back to work and government have relaxed restriction in movement, partial relaxation. Are people still allowed to travel from their location? If they have to, of necessity, what do they need to do? Do they need to tell HR? And when they travel and come back, what else do they need to do? Isolation for 2 weeks. Are we putting all that into consideration? Because we can't afford for people to move out of their location, come back and infect others. They must embark on isolation. We need to review that. Our insurance policies, our health provision policies, all that we need to look at, take another look at. In taking, we need to review our work processes because we cannot come back with full capacity of our employee. Some may need to work from the home. Putting measures in place for them and educate them on what to do. I was talking to a colleague a few days ago, and we said we may need to go paperless. Nigeria and the world is moving towards paperless, contactless, and cashless transactions. That is what we may be looking at. So work tools may have to change, way of work may have to change, processes. When we receive guests into our office, visitors, what do we do? Is it physical? Do they still have to fill form? Nobody wants to touch paper. The virus survives on paper too. We may need to go online. Our L&D, we may need to go online. Recruitment and onboarding, we don't need to consider other processing. I was listening to a webinar recently, and I heard of Adobe EndoSign, where you can now sign your documents. You don't need to carry paper around. Get employees involved. Employees need to get involved. You need to hear them. They need to get your buy-in. Communicate. Once you do this, you communicate to them. You educate them. Train and enforce. What is not being measured sometimes don't get done. So you need to enforce. Provide support and care. Challenges. As the employees get back to work, we will, of course, expect some challenges. Absenteeism. People are going to fall ill. They have family members who may be infected and fall ill. Anxiety and depression. People are still scared. I have workers who don't want to come back because they are scared. They don't want to be exposed. Stress, workload, work overload, long work hours, low productivity. And then by the side, we have tips. Provide support and empathy. Provide basic PPE so that people don't have an excuse not to use the PPEs. Pay special attention to vulnerable and high risk, those with asthma, pregnant women. Consider mental health support. In this age and time, and with the situation, people are confused, people are stressed up. There are a lot of mental health issues going on. We may need to liaise with mental health experts so that they are readily available for our staff to consult. Information on measures taken by government, by company to provide support. Advice on support are available. Constant information, constant education of what they need to do, why they need to take precautions. We need to take simple precautions and planning, which will make a huge difference. And finally, I have a saying here that says, a culture of safety is a journey, not a destination. It requires our continued diligence. We must continue to work on safety. It's not something we put in place and relax. We keep looking out for what will keep our staff safe, our employees safe, may ensure that their work process is always in order while we do that. And then finally, what I have here is that we should show hope. Preach hope. The saying here by Desmond Tutu say, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. Our employees need to know that it's not the end of life. If they ever get infected, they come out. And the world is not coming to an end yet. It's just disruption. Thank you. I know this too will pass, and stay safe. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you. We will sit back and get your questions. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Obiejesi. Indeed, hope is that thing that we need to share at this moment. Indeed, there's light at the end of the tunnel, even as we proceed to reopening the economy. Thank you for your thoughts. You've talked about reducing exposure, and then you've talked about the issue of disclosure. When people travel, it's very important for them to disclose their travel and their whereabouts for the purpose of keeping everyone safe. You mentioned insurance and health policies, things we need to change, KPIs and work processes, and then constant education. Thank you very much for your thoughts, Mrs. Obiejesi. We appreciate you. We see you online, Josephine. We see you, Mohammed. We see you, Titus. We see you, James Ebere from the United Kingdom. We see you, Yassine from Egypt. From Ghana, we have Abdallah, we have Opongasari, we have Kwesi, we have Yosin, we have Adablanu. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. We also have Hendrik Konbrik, the CEO of ZKTeco South Africa, as well as Natalie Skippers. Thank you for being a part of this webinar. During the course of this webinar, before we finish, we will hear from Hendrik in South Africa. But Mrs. Obiejesi said something, and this will lead us to the next speaker. That health, safety, and security of workers should not be undermined. We've talked about changing policies, adaptability. Dr. Basirat has talked about things that we need to do. The occupational health strategist, Camille, also has talked about our workplace and things we need to look out for. Now, to share the essential tools that might help us in the workplaces, those things, Mr. Camille also talked about communication, very important. Mrs. Obiejesi has mentioned culture and consistency. And then some of the things that we just need to put in place that might help us, essential workforce. And to share on that, please let's welcome the CEO of ZKTeco West Africa, Afolabi Abiodun. Please, you can take it from here.
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Obiejesi said something that I want to start with. She asked us to teach our employees how to wear the facial mask. So this is how to wear it. You ensure your nose is covered. So if you don't have one, make sure you get your facial mask and don't go out without it. I hope we are all well and safe. Firstly, I want to reach out to my colleagues, fellow entrepreneurs like me on this session. There's something Mrs. Obiejesi talked about, which I would like to reemphasize. And the reason why this session is being scheduled is to ensure that the same way we are trying to rush back to work, we have to be very cautious, right? One thing I want us to take very seriously, particularly for my colleagues in Nigeria and Ghana, if anybody is tested positive in your organization, the same organization you are rushing to go and open will be locked for a long time. And trust me, in a country like Nigeria, when your organization is locked because you have a couple of incidents, it might take a while before it's open. And that's why it's important for us to take this precaution before opening our organization. And we felt that it's important for people to understand what is necessary to be done before we move ahead to resume back to work. You know, so my name again is Afo Afolabi Abiodun. I'm the CEO of ZKTeco West Africa. ZKTeco is a global brand with operation in more than 30 countries around the world. ZKTeco West Africa is the newest of all ZKTeco subsidiary. It was incorporated in Nigeria early this year, January. You know, we entered Nigeria about the same time, you know, the news of the COVID-19 was all over. ZK is the leading manufacturer of biometrics and identity management equipment in the world. You know, and they are well known for all the access control, biometrics and devices. Most of all the devices that you see around, if it's not manufactured by ZK directly, it's also outsourced to ZKTeco. Coming to West Africa, you know, part of what informed convincing ZK to come to West Africa was because there's, for quite a while, there have been a lot of users of ZKTeco solutions in Nigeria, and support is not as available as expected. You know, late last year, when the global CEO of ZKTeco visited, you know, we succeeded in convincing ZKTeco on a reason why they have to be in Nigeria. And one good thing we got out of bringing ZK to Nigeria, you know, is that coming to Nigeria is not just to distribute ZKTeco products. We emphasize the reason why the R&D for Africa should be situated in West Africa. And as I speak to you, discussion is ongoing with University of Lagos, where the R&D center will be situated. It's also not going to stop at that. ZKTeco's manufacturing line, all the products that will be used across West Africa, you know, in the next couple of years, we also intend to set up a factory also in Nigeria for West Africa. Coming to West Africa, one thing that is very important for me personally, which, you know, ZK also agrees with, is that we have to provide solutions that will protect lives and secure properties. Interestingly, our mission in Africa was put to test, you know, with the COVID-19 that we are dealing with now, you know, and personally, I believe that this is something that would come to an end very soon. Thankfully, significant progress has been made. You know, just a couple of days ago, remdesivir was said to be a drug that is already showing positive signs, you know, as a potential remedy to COVID-19. We also have about 120 pharmaceutical companies testing different vaccines. Even in our own Africa here, Madagascar has, you know, an herbal treatment, which they said worked for it. So I believe that this is, it will actually come to an end, you know, and I sincerely hope that, you know, we can see the end of it, you know, very soon. So one of the things we've done as an organization, okay, because we're all in this together, and it's important for every organization, every individual, in our own little way, to see how we can support humanity, support government, support ourselves to bring, this pandemic to an end. At our own level, ZKTeco, one of the first things we did, which also informed organizing this webinar, is that We understand that people will be rushing to work. Mrs. Obijese talked about HR policies. Mr. Camille also talked about safety policies. For the current situation we have, it's important for us to have an health and safety code. An health and safety code that would also reflect and take care of the situation we are currently dealing with. One of the things that we've done in the last couple of weeks, working with our health and safety practitioner, working with our HR practitioner, is that we have designed an health and safety code for all organizations, which we intend to broadcast and share for every organization to adopt for their own different organizations. So at the end of this session, we'll be sharing with all participants. We also intend to, use all social media to promote it, okay? Because going back to work now, we also need to be very careful. We also need to be very careful, particularly because the spread of this virus has to do with interaction. And place of work is where interaction happens. So every organization needs to implement processes that would ensure that we have minimal interaction as much as possible. So what this safety code has carefully prepared is all those things that we need to do as an organization to ensure that we minimize interaction as much as possible. Another thing we also intend to do, and we've actually started that process. I'll talk about it later. We as an organization, we are offering every organization that is interested free health and safety assessment. Would send people to your organization, help you assess your risk, tell you about all the safety that you need to do, and share with you all the necessary recommendations. We are also doing that as our own way of supporting organization, just to ensure that this spread is minimized, if possible, eradicated as quickly as possible. So for us, one of the things ZK has done, especially at the global level, is to actually start a manufacturing line that ensures that we are also supporting all governments in our own little way. ZK, that is a biometrics and identity manufacturer, access control manufacturer. One of the things that has happened in the last couple of months is also to come up with equipment that would ensure that all the social distancing that I talked about, minimal interaction, that would ensure that this spread is minimized as much as possible. ZK have also, developed products that will make this happen. The first product you are seeing, on my slide is a simple all-in-one disinfection tunnel. As a matter of fact, one of the things we are also willing to do as an organization, and we've started that process, is reaching out to Nigerian government for starters, because the point of entry for most of these viruses are through the airport. So we're willing to donate this to the 3 international airports that we have in Nigeria, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Kano. Now, what this tunnel would do is everybody coming to Nigeria for the first time, upon arrival at the port of entry, this all-in-one self-managed tunnel, your temperature will be checked. From checking your temperature, you are also instantly using the disinfectant, auto disinfectant spray to ensure that you are also your hands are properly disinfected. Then you are going through the tunnel that has full body disinfection, full body, combining 2 technology. The first one is the UV ray, the UV light. The second one is to use the smart liquid disinfection that changes it to fog for you before you move on. Now, if your temperature is above normal, the system automatically indicates. So we intend to also support this. This is also something that would be good for all organizations, if you run a factory, you're putting it at the point of entry. Because it makes sense for you to dictate and isolate whoever has, the disease even before they enter your premises. Apart from that, we also have the temperature gun. We have the touchless dispenser. We have several other touchless equipment for access control. Because right now, the part of spreading this disease has to do with surfaces touching. And so the things you touch, of course, are equipment like access control. So one of the things we've done as an organization is to immediately repurpose most of our equipment to ensure that we can also, be part of this change and ensure that this disease is not spreading. We have other essential products, like I mentioned, the turnstile that has facial recognition, temperature measurement. You have the handheld one that can be used by factories. Organizations that are also in charge of providing physical security. This is the beauty of this one is it is actually a fast temperature measurement tool, ensuring that every face, all the faces that passes through your premises are identified, real time. They are captured and stored, and you can go back to it and see it. We also have the thermal imaging camera. This is, for large sites. It ensures that all the faces in your premises are all scanned, and you can identify all cases, with high temperature. Because temperature is, one of the main symptoms of all this, of the disease we are dealing with, or any other related disease. So it's important for us to isolate early enough, even before they have access to our facility. So the essence of what we've organized is just to ensure that we have all the information that is necessary even before we start opening our operations. We need to look at so many things that has to change, what are the things that has to change in our operation, and ensure that when people are getting back to work, they are getting back to work, getting back to a safe environment. And we are not in any way going to, regret the decision of hurriedly opening our organization. And like I said at the beginning, at the end of this session, we'll be sharing work safety code, which we've developed that can work for all organizations. All you need to do is just print out some of the slides the way they are and adopt it for your different organization. So I want to again appreciate our panelists for their effort, volunteering. Putting this together happened in a space of 1 week. We reached out to them, and the minute we told them what this was about, they all accepted, prepared all the slides in less than 1 week. And here we are today. We have over at a particular time, we have more than 150 that signed up for this session. Thank you so much, Mr. Adeyemo. You can take it from here.
Thank you very much, Afo. That's Afolabi Abiodun, the Chief Executive Officer of ZKTeco West Africa. Thank you for your thoughts and sharing the essential tools you have for the workplace. We appreciate all. We'll be going to the question and answer sessions now, but we appreciate all our panelists. Thank you for taking our time on this day after Workers' Day, to share these insightful ideas and thoughts and directions, and even challenge us as individuals to play our part in ensuring that we flatten the curve, to ensure that we do not allow the virus to spread further than we have now, even though the cases are increasing. If we do the things that we need to do, we will really flatten this curve. Thank you very much for your thoughts. We recognize you, Nicholas, Bayo, Richard, Mrs. Dominga Odebumi, the pioneer DG of the Lagos Safety Commission. We thank you for being a part of this webinar. So a few questions have come out, and I would be, so please, if you would like to, I don't know if Hendrik is still online, Hendrik Konbrick from South Africa. If Hendrik is still available, if he has a thought or two, I'll come back to you, Hendrik, but let me just take a few questions for Dr. Basirat. Dr. Akombi? Dr. Akombi? Dr. Akombi online?
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Yes, so a few questions here. Let me just run the first two, to you, and let's see. Somebody said, being a carrier, does it mean the virus automatically lives on the palm?
Okay, so the virus does not live on the palm, but it is contained in all body fluids. So the virus is in the saliva, is in the blood, can be found in the feces, urine. So the virus is essentially in all body fluids. So for carriers, it means that they will definitely have the virus on their hands because we come in contact with our body fluids consciously or unconsciously. You understand? So when they sneeze, even when they are talking, droplets are coming out while they are talking, and then it's going to land on surfaces around the carrier, which includes their hands. So the hand is the culprit because we touch everywhere with our hands. We touch doors, we try to shake other people, collect things, give out things. So that is why the hand is the part of the body that is said to spread the virus. So the thing is, we touch ourselves, even while we are talking, the droplets are coming out and they are landing on our hands. So that is how it happens.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you for that clarification. Somebody asked, will early detection save transmission?
Yes, early detection will definitely save transmission because such individuals, if they are positive, they can be isolated, they can be quarantined. And that would really help to prevent other people from getting infected. So early detection will save transmission, and at least they can be under observation. Should they develop any symptom that will warrant treatment, they can be assisted because, as I said, that some people with this virus have diarrhea, so they might need fluid replacement. They'll have to be monitored. If they're having breathlessness, they will need oxygen. So the quarantine is going to help break the cycle. It's going to help prevent them from being able to spread the virus. So early detection will definitely save
early detection. Thank you very much, Doc. I'll just take one question for you before I proceed to the next panelist. Somebody asked here, David Olojo, said, can you please explain the myths circulating on social media on some aspects of self-therapy, such as inhalation of steam to kill the virus in the nasal system? What's your advice on this?
Well, some studies have shown that the virus becomes non-viable, that is not capable of existing anymore when exposed to certain temperatures and humidity. So going by that, I can say, okay, at least I know for surfaces that, okay, you can use steam to probably sterilize, to disinfect objects and surfaces. But for humans to subject themselves to steam inhalation, well, I would say no one should do beyond what they can cope with. Because some individuals, when exposed to too much steam, it can even be hazardous to their health. There are some forms of cardiomyopathy that actually develops, that's some forms of heart disease that develops when individuals are exposed to excessive steam, because it has been found like some cultures where women after delivery, they are subjected to like steam baths. So all the steam, sometimes it predisposes them to heart diseases. So I would not advise people to do beyond what they can tolerate.
Thank you very much, Doc. So precaution is key. Talk to a medical expert. Precaution is very key. That's what you're advising at this point. Thank you very much, Doc. Mr. Camille, a question for you here. Is GKO online?
Yes, I'm online.
Yes, a question here is, what should organizations put in place to sanitize staff before entering the workplace after commuting through public transport?
In the first instance, like the HR expert also enumerated, that it's very important that communication. And what organizations which I support, what they've been advised is that before people even resume to work, those that will resume, because they are meant to be resuming in phases, but those that will resume first to work tomorrow, have received an SMS message of a step-to-step protocol they have to follow. First, before they leave their home, they must have a nose mask covered while they are in that public transport, and ensure that whoever is sitting next to them also have the cover. If you are in a vehicle that you cannot get everybody to cover up, because that's the fastest means of transport transmission of this particular virus, then you should just let off that particular vehicle. So on arriving at the workforce, you must go for the hygiene checks, and your temperature checks will be done. A physical check will be done. Some organizations that have the wherewithal do have a medical practitioner within the organization, like a nurse or a doctor, to be able to examine people, even check their blood pressure using the electronic type, to be able to ensure that, okay, this person is looking comfortable, fit. And you have HR at their reception willing to have a conversation to address the mental health and the anxiety that my co-panelists has discussed. So these are measures. Then they now go for the hygiene check and tell them that while they are going in, they should pick sanitizer, ensure that they dispense from the sanitizer dispenser, get their hands sterilized, use the hand wash before even stepping into the reception, while they still being advised to maintain. Because what most of them are doing on arrival, after following this distancing and check, getting to their workstation, they go through a slide of orientation of the new way of work within their work environment. So it's not even a face-to-face training anymore. It's an online. You go to your system, and when you open your system, you must go through that requirement and sign that you've understood what is there. And you now have somebody having an overlook over there. So this can really work out. It's all about communication, like I said. And the personnel also have a duty of care to ensure the safety of themselves. You have a role to play as well.
Thank you very much. Every individual has a role to play to ensure that we flatten the curve. Thank you for your thoughts. Right. So while we put processes in place, while we put these tools, essential tools and technologies in place, it's important for each individual to take personal responsibility for themselves and for other people. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Mrs. Obiejesi, so from the human resource perspective, somebody asked, well, I'm not sure what they meant by the intro, but it's a very strong point. They said, will it be fair to stigmatize an employee who discloses his or her COVID-19 status? What steps should he or she take if laid off?
Well, that would not be fair, and it is not right. And it is something no HR person should get involved in. If a staff declares, the staff is even protecting the business and other employees, and other employees should be encouraged to do so as soon as they find out that they have symptoms or they go for tests. If the person is laid off, if it's a manufacturing environment where you have union, if it's a unionized environment, the person can talk to union. They will handle that. The person can also speak to, if the person is a member of a professional institute, speak to the professional institute and they'll handle that. Or maybe look for a legal professional to advise. But basically it is wrong. Nobody caused this. We are all in this, both the employer, employees, society, everybody. Even the employer can be infected too. Big men the infection started with the big guys anyway. So, and before they transmitted it. So I think that nobody should do that really. All we need to do is to ensure that the employee is isolated, treated, certified fit, and brought back to the workplace. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. So 2 more questions for you before I go back to Dr. Akombi. One said, who should provide PPE, the organization or employees themselves?
Truth is, employers are supposed to provide work PPEs, but this nose masks, as we are talking about it, everybody is involved. The directive was given 2 days ago. People are not yet in the workplace. people should get their PPEs. For your own personal protection, employees should understand right now that it is their responsibility to be safe, first of all. Work come and go. If you don't resign, they will say, well, you need to stay alive.
That's right.
So you get your PPE, and these things are very cheap now. You get for 500, 200, this, that. Get one first. Really, why employ? Because it is the duty of employers to protect employees at workplace, and so that people don't come up with the excuses that I couldn't buy and things like those who can. It may be safer and better for employers to make provision for PPE, for nose masks and distribute, but employees too should endeavor to. This is something that you cannot even wear the same thing every day. You can't wear the same nose mask every day, whether it's Ankara nose mask or whatever. You need to change it. So if your employer provides two, are you going to hold on to that two for 1 month? We should also learn to take care of ourselves, a culture of care, and remove this culture of entitlement that we have.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Femi, let me
yes,
just
GKO, yes, go ahead.
Because you mentioned PPE. In the first instance, the personnel is commuting from home to work. And he needs to be protected. His own safety is his responsibility. So even the first nose mask that he will use to get to work first needs to be procured by himself for his own safety. So if you resume to work and you are not protected, I will advise that you go home for 14 days and be quarantined and resume back. I will now give you the nose mask and go for 14 days and come back if you did not show a symptom. Because you've used the public transport to get to the workplace. So your safety is your responsibility. It is very, very vital. We need to do that on first, while the employers and the business owner now does theirs at their own capacity.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Obiojesi, again, somebody asked, do we have sufficient provisions within our local labor law that can protect workers who choose to stay away from work or fear for their safety, perhaps where employers are not doing enough in terms of safeguarding the workforce?
For our labor law, the provision stated there is that the employer needs to provide work and provide a safe environment. Now, the onus relies on the employee to prove that the employer did not provide environment for the work. However, on the employer side, the people business is our business. There won't be business if the people are not there. The truth is that if one employee, just one, gets infected, the business will be shut down for some time at least. So considering that, it may be more cost effective for the employer to provide basic precautions, hand sanitizers, temperature check, PPEs, hand washing tools, and others. Simple. But as for those who refuse to come, the HR should check, is the nature of their work such that they can work from home? We said it's disruption and things are changing. We are going digital. It's a new era. It's a digital era. If the work can be done from home, check the work description, provide KPIs, give key deliverables, ask for a report, put in place parameters to make the person deliver. Our performance management metric should be focused on productivity and not on presentism. We just come to work. So if the person can work from home, all you need to do is to make sure that the person gets the right tool, the clearly communicated deliverables, so that the person can deliver and then send daily report. People are already doing that, except for manufacturing where you cannot produce at home. Look at the nature of the work and advise appropriately. I don't think it should be an issue, but basically the employer should ensure that there is safety at the workplace. Because if people keep coming, people will go to work, of course, but because they want to protect their pay. But if they come to work and get infected, the business cannot function. And nobody is going to come and work in a company that already have a staff that is infected.
That's true. Great. So, I mean, from that, I think you have answered the next question I would have asked you, that how can performance be measured during remote working? You've talked about KPIs and things they need to do. It's about delivery, not about being present physically in brick and mortar. So that's great. So Doc, I'll come back to you now. Somebody asked, okay, I think we've answered the nose mask question. So a question from Ukachi says, for sanitizers, how can you tell that the quantity, Dr. Basira, this is for you. He said, for sanitizers, how can we tell that the quantity of alcohol in it is sufficient? Because most sanitizers don't have labels on the concentration of alcohol in it. Secondly, if we have to boost the alcohol in the sanitization or in the sanitizer, what mixing formula do you recommend? Dr. Prajarat, please unmute.
So thank you for the question. So for the first question, I would advise that we get our hand sanitizer from reputable sources. So there are some companies that, you know, they are ethical companies that, you know, they would not compromise on the quality of hand sanitizer. I would not like to mention specific names now so that it doesn't seem as an advert. So you know those the companies that you know would not compromise on quality. So you can purchase from them. Or otherwise, you can make your own hand sanitizer. If you go onto the Google search engine, you can type WHO formula. There are even videos on YouTube that you can watch on how to make your own hand sanitizer from 3 simple materials, from alcohol and hydrogen peroxide and glycerin. So there are many videos out there, WHO videos and WHO text that you can use as guide. So that is the one I would recommend that you can use to make your own formulation to be sure that it's at least 60 to 75% alcohol.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so another question here, Doc. After this one, I'll ask you a question you would answer, and then Mr. Camille will follow up on that. But this one is for you. He said, do you think the government's decision to reopen the economy and release the lockdown, as the person said, is right? Having learned that Ghana and Germany's COVID-19 case increased after they gradually opened up the economy. So do you think it's a right move?
Okay, well, in as much as I'm not a government critic, it is not my place to say whether it's right or wrong. But my own opinion would have been that we should have followed other countries. Like some other countries were involved in this pandemic before Nigeria. And by other countries, I would say the United Kingdom, I would say the United States of America. I would say we should have followed their footsteps. So I would not really say more than that. Like I would not point outly say, oh, it was the wrong decision or it was the right decision. Okay. I choose to remain indifferent, but okay. I would have preferred us to be part of, you know, other giants that are involved in this pandemic.
Okay, Afo, as a business owner, what do you think about this?
Well, for starters, I think understanding the peculiarity of our own environment is important, right? You know, because you also want to like balance humanity. Picking up a template from UK or US, you know, might not be the ideal thing to do. Right? We have some African countries now that, as a matter of fact, seems to be doing better than some of those countries that we've referenced. Right? We were having this conversation before the session started. Right? You have an environment. Let's use Lagos as an example. You have areas in Ajegunle, Lagos Island, where people live and living in very close. What's it called? Close proximity. The fact that you're even keeping them in their homes already would make the virus spread. You don't even have control over it, right? So it's actually coming up with measures, right? That actually reflect who we are. I mean, if they ask for Dr. Basira and Mrs. Chidi now, social distancing in their own household. Mrs. Chidi lives in a duplex or a castle. You know, she has enough leg room to move around. But you're talking about Afo that lives in a one-room apartment, right? You know, I mean, confining me in that environment for a long time is not sustainable. Let's even leave the fact that my food is on the road, right? So for our workers that are coming to work, majority of Nigerian workers will have to come on public transportation. So how can we practice our social distancing in a manner that we don't also lose humanity? Hand gloves, mask, training them on what to do. There was a question that was asked earlier on when people get to work, what are the things that are meant to do? Let's look at a mama put. A mama put cannot afford hand sanitizer. So you also have to look at that context. A mama put should have a wash hand basin to wash. I saw one interesting picture of, people now offering it as a service. So we also have to see how we can implement. Not everybody can afford a hand sanitizer, right? But I can afford Kongi soap, right? People can afford Kongi soap. So we need to see how to domesticate it and make it work for us, not just to blindly say lock down the economy forever, right? And I guess the reason why the government has gone this direction is to balance this. Yes. Balance lights like balance elitist view like Femi's own or Anti-Chidi's own with common people like our folk. Just to ensure there's a middle ground.
Yeah, I think it was.
Can I comment on that?
I think it was Governor El Rufai that mentioned that we're in a trilemma of protecting lives, livelihoods, and then liberty. So I think for us, and as you have advised as experts, is the balance and also educating and communicating with our people, particularly in terms that they can understand, bringing it down to the level of, so that we don't sound so elitist or we don't sound so common. I think for each strata of society, we should tailor our communication. So Doc, this question is for you and Mr. Camille, but I'd like you to go first, Dr. Akombi. The question says, I need further clarification on why we cannot make use of air conditioning in our offices and in our cars. Are we not exposing ourselves to external factors? Dr. Akombi, you go first, and then you'll be supported by Mr. Camille Abiodun.
Okay. So I'll start with the cars first. So if you're driving your personal car and it's not like for commercial use, it's safe to use your air conditioning system. It is practically safe. But if the vehicle is for commercial purpose and you'll be taking in people from unknown backgrounds, then it's best that the vehicle should be ventilated, because they'll be talking. Somebody can just sneeze without you knowing, like sneezes, it can happen spontaneously. So that is why it would be better if the vehicle is ventilated, so that, such droplets can be taken away by the wind. And if there's any aerosols from the droplet, it can also be swept away by the wind. So that is for vehicles. Then for offices, if the office, for instance, if it's like a personal office and you don't really attend to people, like you're always by yourself throughout your working hours, you can still use the air conditioning system. But if it is an office you're sharing with other people, or you have other members of staff that will be coming in, and you might want to ventilate the place, because at the end of the day, it means you're sharing the space with other people and you don't know what their droplets may contain. So that is the clarification. So it depends on the kind of office. If it's your personal office and you're not really, because like my colleague, the co-panelist from the HR said that now you'll be talking to people on phone. So now it's probably better to communicate via maybe WhatsApp video instead of seeing people face to face. So if all those changes are being instituted and you can ensure that, okay, your workplace, your office, you're the only person that is going to have access to it. If you need to talk to your secretary, if you need to talk to your boss, it's going to be via WhatsApp video or some other platforms, then you can use your air conditioning system. But so long you have other people coming in, talking to you, droplets will be coming out, and you don't know what that will contain. So you prefer a ventilated system where the breeze can take that away. Thank you,
Doc. Thank you very much, Doc. Mr. Abiodun, your thoughts on this?
My thought on this is that every work environment is unique. A risk assessment needs to be done on your work environment. We need to know the ventilating systems and the kind of structure you have. we have buildings that are boxed building that depends on HVAC. If you depend on HVAC, there's a frequency in which they need to now follow to clean their vents and their filters. And for various offices with looking at droplets, Lagos State has compelled, even federal government has compelled, that you must have your nose mask purportedly on your nose and in your mouth. So all your droplets are contained. What comes out is the filtered air that comes out of that filter into the environment. It's also to take care of situations that like these, where you have to be in a work environment together and you have a closed system and you have an air conditioning system in place. You have offices that don't have access to opening of their windows in this Lagos, Nigeria, where it's a box office and they depend on HVAC, chiller systems. So it's just the mechanization and the designs of the chiller system and the maintenance systems of those chiller systems that need to be intensified on. And for those that use split unit as well, it's time to now clean up your split unit and work on your filters as regular as possible. And also must, like the federal governments are declared, so that you cannot have it released at one point that you say you left your nose loose and cover your mouth only, and you get to sneeze and something had to jump out of your nose. They've requested that everybody should be on lockdown of their mouth and their nose while they are on lockdown in the work environment. So
that's an interesting angle.
You still need to lock down your mouth and your nose while in the work environment. As we are unlocking you to the work environment, still lock down your mouth and your nose. I think it's just basic, simple. Very importantly, you need to understand your own work environment and see what will ensure that we can flatten the curve, reduce the transmission, reduce the spread. Everybody's safety is his own responsibility. That's the first. Thank you.
Thank you for that angle. If Chief Zebediah were here, he would say lock up your buccal cavity and your factory cavity. Thank you for that thought. Mr. Camille, still a question for you here. Someone asked, from the safety and health standpoint, how prepared are we as a people in Nigeria? I'm sincerely concerned, especially for workers in less structured organizations. Workers in less structured organizations. How do you advise?
Well, less structured work environment. I think maybe the government or needs to do that sensitization. For private sector, the responsibility and the onus is on all the HR that might be on this platform to advise others. You must do SMS communication. Some of them doesn't have Android. Send SMS communication. Let them know what measures is required for them to return back to work. For the unorganized system and structure, a lot of jingles and campaign needs to go on the public radio that they listen to, that they are used to, and whoever is their community leader in the various unorganized system, they all have leaders and they do their meeting. That same awareness and communication and effective communication on what measures they need to put in place need to be communicated. And enforcement need to be in place. If they say you need to lock down your nose and mouth, if you are not and you're on the street, then enforcement will take effect. We still need to prevent the transmission and also reduce the spread. So you must lock down your nose and your mouth.
Very important. Thank you for your thoughts. Mrs. Obiejesi, 2 questions for you here. First one is, what can we do about annual leaves of employees? Seeing that we are just coming from a general leave for the entire country, what are we going to do about annual leaves? Somebody who has to travel or go on leave in September now, or Christmas or something. So what do we do about annual leaves?
Okay, it depends on what work for organization. First and foremost, the employer should seek the employees' understanding. We are all in this together. This suddenly came upon everybody. Employers didn't plan for it. We were just told from nowhere, you can't open your offices anymore. And people had to go away from the office. Now, what some have adopted is that the moment they say go away from the office, they converted it to annual leave. I know of companies that have done that. It became your annual leave automatically. For some others, it's 50% of your annual leave. And some have encouraged their staff to take their annual leave within this time, because you agree that this time employees are not really, even those that are working from home, very few of them, the others are just at home doing other things. They cannot work because the company did not plan, or the company is not working remotely, or their business is not working remotely. So it can be 50-50 to be fair. while the employee forfeits 50%, the employer gives back 50% so that the employee can still take out time to see their families. Sometimes that is the time they use to see their families, visit relations, and do others. One thing we must understand, like what I try to tell our employees in the organization, is that the whole business year has been disrupted. Before you know it, 6 months will be gone. We are already in the 5th month of the year. And this started just about when companies have just finished with their budgeting, about to start work, actually on the new year. It then beholds on everyone to show understanding. And that, what I'm saying is this: when work eventually returns to normal, if it ever will, we need everybody's hand, heart, and head together to drive the company, to ensure that the company survive. A lot of companies don't even get businesses now. The salespeople can't go out. So is it then fair to assume that when businesses return to normal that they should go out, employees should begin to ask for leave? I think they can meet each other halfway.
Halfway.
Yes, that's what I...
Very good. Very good. Mutual understanding is very important. We all have to sacrifice.
Communication is key. Employers should not take it for granted. They will understand. They should communicate and discuss.
Communication and engagement. Thank you for your thoughts. So one more question for you. We have just a few minutes left. I think we should be rounding off now. I'll take one question, or I'll put 2 questions together in one for you, Mrs. Obiejesi. I'll go to Doc and end with Mr. Camille Abiodun. So Ms. Obiejesi, someone asked, can an employer mandate employees to test for COVID-19 before returning to work? Is it legal?
I'm not sure what COVID-19 is new, so I do not know about being legal. However, I would expect that most companies do their medical processes before engagement. So if an employer have to go through that, just like they do other tests, they may do that. But I also expect that employees would find it easy to do COVID-19 tests. I mean, that tells you your status and save your life and the life of others. So if the employer requests for that, it's just like asking for tests for TB, for instance, because companies test for TB and they test for others. What they are simply doing is not to stigmatize the prospective employee. It is to protect him and protect others. And what they normally do is that the moment they find that someone tests positive, they counsel the person, send for treatment, and once the person is certified, okay, they still go ahead and employ. It depends on the skill you have to offer.
Okay.
If I find someone who is well skilled and the person tests positive, I would encourage the person to get treated. It's not his fault. He could have contacted. Nobody said that.
Mr. Obiejesi, talking about employment, let me quickly take this, the second one. Talking about employment, somebody asked here that how do we go about recruiting employees, new employees during this outbreak? What steps can we take to protect our workforce? Still in line with your answer.
Okay. For recruitment, long ago, people have, including yours sincerely, we have started employing remotely. Send out your adverts, people apply online, or you check for their CVs on LinkedIn and others, and you do interview via Skype or other digital media. We've been doing that. I can't remember when last I did any physical interview in my office. You sit wherever you are and we talk and interview, and we can see your faces. Whatever we want to discuss, we will discuss and agree. I have employees who have resumed, and all I see about, the only time I've met with them is on Skype, and they have resumed. They've been working for months. So just use Skype and that's fine. You can also use Zoom or other platform, that's fine. Then for protecting employees, well, what we have done is to provide the basic, the normal sanitizer at the gates. We have the temperature check, wash hand tools located close to the entrance so that you can easily wash your hands. Then for the entrance door, because we are not presently using the sensor monitor doors, we keep the doors open so that you don't need to touch. The cleaners are instructed to clean all the doorknobs, hand railings, all those work frequently, constantly. We also constantly send out information on this COVID-19 into our employees so that they would be updated on what to do.
Great.
We keep advising them and
advising, communication, consistent engagement. Thank you very much. Dr. Basirat, I'll take one or two questions for you, and then for Mr. Camille before we get Afolabi to round off this webinar. I don't know if we have Hendrik. If we have Afolabi, please help me confirm if we have Hendrik for a point or two. So, Dr. Basirat, what can be done each day one returns to the house to mitigate this virus? Peradventure, one came in contact with a carrier unknowingly. What can we do as we go to work, as we commute to work and back home? And yes, maybe there was 60% spacing on the buses we plied, or and at work, all the necessary things are in there, but we may not know a carrier. So the person is asking, what can we do at home each day, or when we get to the office each day, to mitigate having been the transmission of this virus? Yes, Dr. Basirat, please unmute. Dr. Basirat, did you get my question? Please unmute.
Please, can you say I was going through all the questions.
Oh, okay. No, this one I said, what can be done each day one returns to the house to mitigate this virus? Peradventure, one came in contact with a carrier unknowingly. Is there anything workers can do every day? They come back from work or something? Or is this just mere anxiety?
Okay, so the most important thing is
I think I can help with that. I think
you have on outside, you have to that is stop for washing. If you are the type that can wash immediately, you can soak them in detergent immediately. But if you know, probably you use maybe a washing machine, you can store them in a plastic bag, pending the time you'll be doing that. Then you take a bath. It is very important at this period that we take our bath immediately after coming back from outside. And if you're unable to do that because fingers are not equal, so if you're unable to do that, at least ensure you wash all your exposed parts with soap and water before you start touching other parts of your house and interacting with other members of your family. So it should be a rule that as you're coming from outside, no interaction with anybody, no sitting down. You go straight into your room, you remove your clothes, you put them in the bag you have mandated for that purpose. You go to the bathroom, you take a bath or wash all those exposed parts. And it can also be helpful to take some sips of water. That would also help. So we can make this a habit of cleaning up. So you have different clothing to wear outside, then you change into fresh clothing when you get inside. That would help.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Camille Abiodun, still related to that, I mean, Dr. Basirat just advised that we clean ourselves, clean clothing and all that. You would recall that during the time of Ebola, some of us, started this habit. Some people just started the habit of, this hygiene of washing hands and all that. And just a few months or a few weeks after we're declared, safe and all that, people went back to how they were before. So how do you think this will be different based on the advice Dr. Basirat just gave, on cleanliness, on personal hygiene and all that? What can we do differently to ensure that we cultivate these habits?
Again, I will tell participants, your safety and that of your immediate family is your responsibility. What is obtainable with my global network and what best practice they've been able to deploy is that families don't longer hug. Children don't longer go to their parents' room as usual. They meet at the common area of the facility. So when parents now comes into the house, they go back and remove the clothes that they came up with from outside and put them into their washing machine or put them into where they have to wash them and get them into the laundry first. And they have a complete shower to ensure that they have soap pass over their body, which is the best way to also drop off this viral if you even have it within your surface part of your body at any point in time. And we just need to have a conversation with our families and friends that no more hugging. It's not a matter of you don't love again. On arrival, no more hugging until it changes into a fresh clothes as been advised by the medical. That your clothes that you now wear, the way we come back from work in the past, that you just lounge on the living room sofa, is no longer going to play. So you just need to go straight into your bedroom, into your shower, and all your clothing go straight into the laundry, and you must attend to it yourself before you now take the shower and come out to take fresh clothes like she has advised, which is the best practice as we speak. And that will go a long way to keep us safe and keep our immediate family safe.
Indeed, these are really, it's really the new normal. These are strange times, as it were, you know, for us. But being conscious of what we need to do, being consistently engaged, and then having that communication of things we need to do are very important. Right. Before we round off, once again, I would like to thank you. We're going to get the vote of thanks from the convener of this webinar, Afolabi Abiodun. But some people are asking you, Afolabi, this question. Well, I think you will engage with them privately, but once somebody asked this, he said, we're in the aviation industry, and we have to deal with a huge number of persons and passengers. So we need to know how we can engage with the essential tools you have recommended. So that somebody is asking from the aviation industry, and another person is asking how these tools that you shared with us from ZKTeco, how they can get it. I believe that you will get their personal information and deal with them. But again, if you want to say anything generally about that, please feel free before you give your vote of thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, you already addressed that. For those that asked questions that are related to our product, we'll get in touch with them and you know, tell them how they can get the product. You know, I just want to quickly also add to what Mr. Camille talked about. Now, looking at the peculiarity of our environment, for landlords that has a face me, I face you apartment, right? We also need to be conscious of how we attend to how we get back to our different households. You know, this is the time that we should have a communal wash and basin outside with soaps, with strict instruction before you come in to my house. As the landlord, everybody must wash their hands before coming in. Very important. Washing your hands, because that's, I mean, the hand that you work with every day that you most likely would have touched anything. To open the doorknob is also with your hand. So if you have the wash and basin outside for everybody, even in our own different, for us we have our flats, we need to educate our kids. There should be that wash and basin outside. Station outside for you to wash your hands before you go in at all. Very important. I also would want us to, the administrator, I want you to unmic my colleague from South Africa. You know, I want him to also say one or two things, possibly share with us what they are doing in South Africa, you know, to address this situation. I also want to recognize Brian Ahmad. He's been part of the session from the beginning. Ahmad has over 800 employees. You know, if it's possible to also hear from him, that would also be nice. I want to recognize my sister from Kaduna, Ramatu. Thank you for also joining in. You know, so can you quickly unmic Mr. Hendrik from South Africa?
Good afternoon, guys. From South Africa, how are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining.
No problem. Sorry, I just want to highlight some.
Good afternoon, those things.
No problem. There's some points that I wanted to highlight from webinars that I have chaired here in South Africa. Obviously, from our side being security and industry manufacturing stuff, whereby the access control and time attendance systems that's being used at the moment, obviously most of them are fingerprint, that type of thing. So a lot of questions has come up where the employers is asking the next question, what happens now? So some of the points that I wanted to highlight is that obviously the employers have to make a chance on or make a plan and make a decision and give that plan over to the employees before they even go back to the office. The technology being used can be anything from cards that is touchless to facial recognition, palm recognition, anything like that. But at the end of the day, the employer must also not be pressured into any elaboration whereby they give out cash flow on technology whereby they could actually spend it on health precaution, cleaning stations, all of that. But at the end of the day, my main point is that the employees must just make the plan and make the decision to use whatever technology they can to keep the security of the company higher, and also not share it with the safety of the company.
Thank you so much, Hendrik. What we've done, because we knew this would be very important, and what we've done with these professionals that spoke on this panel is that we came up with a workplace health and safety guide. You know, a guide that every organization can pick up, and you actually can adopt this for your organization. It has to be shared with your employees. It has to be shared with your vendors. It has to be shared with everybody that have access to your premises. They need to be familiar with what the new mode of operation will be going forward. So right after this session, we'll start circulating this. You know, you also should share with everybody. Right now is about humanity. All the slides that we've used on this presentation, you know, a couple of questions have been asked. I said it's going to be shared, right? Because it's about humanity. It's about humanity. It's important for information to get out. We don't even mind if you go and use the same slides verbatim the way it is to educate people. It's about humanity. You know, the policies we've shared, we have it, in simple terms, with good pictorial representation for you to know what you need to do. So this is also very important. Once again, I want to appreciate my panelists.
Afolabi, could you give me a second to just read one or two comments before your vote of thanks? As we appreciate our panelists for your time and your expertise, we have quite a number of comments appreciating your contribution to this webinar, your depth of knowledge and your empathy with things that came out from Brian Ammond. He said, thanks to the panelists for the wonderful presentations. This will definitely help us keep our staff safe. And from the pioneer DG of the Lagos Safety Commission, Mrs. Dominga Odebumi, she said, panelists are well grounded. Thank you for organizing with competent speakers. I'm interested, you know, and all that. She said something for ZK there. So that's from the house. Once again, we appreciate you, Dr. Basirat, Mrs. Obiejesi, Mr. Camille Abiodun. Over to you, Afolabi.
Yeah, already you took it out of my mind to appreciate all our panelists, including yourself, Femi. Getting you on phone in the middle of the night and said, Femi, we got to do this. This is very important. They've asked us to return back to work, but people need to be empowered with the right information. You know, particularly my colleagues. I have members of my community. The EDC are represented here. Ahmad is my colleague and member of the ESCO of the Stanford CDEM network, right? These are people responsible for hundreds and thousands of employees, right? We have a major challenge on us. We have serious burden on our shoulders. Now we're dealing with, you know, the reality of things that we have to work with now. So many decisions that you have to make. You also have to make decisions, you know, on how to also get your business going. Very tough. I can imagine what we are individually going through now. You know, but all in all, humanity comes first. Health and safety of our people comes first. Now, if we all go back to work as we've directed, and anybody gets infected for whatever reason, that office will be under lock and keys for a long time. And that's why it's important for us to take this safety very seriously. We've also offered risk assessment, safety and risk assessments. You know, if any organization that is willing to take it, we are ready to offer that to you and give you recommendations on what you need to do. Thank you so much, Dr. Basirat. I appreciate you more than you can ever imagine. Thank you, GKO. Thank you, Femi. Thank you, my beautiful sister, Mrs. Chidi. I call you every time and you're always, you know, available. Thank you. And to all participants, for some of us, we got the invite a couple of hours before the event. We signed up and we attended. And I really like, you know, how rich this audience is. It's a mix of safety practitioners, HR, employees, and entrepreneurs. Hamad has 3 different organizations he's managing combined. Just for you to know how important this session is for all of us. Hendrik started with us from the beginning till the end. Thank you all. We have people that signed in from UK, from US. Thank you all for your time. We would also look at relevant areas of discussion that we can look at in future. Right now, it's all about humanity. ZK is for security. ZK is for safety. I mean, there's no way you can talk about, you can't even have a business if you don't have a safe and secured environment. Thank you all for your time. Femi, you can now close the session. Unmute yourself, Femi.
We appreciate you, participants from all over. Like I said at the beginning, that it's become a global event because we have people from outside Africa. We had people from also within the country, within the continent, Egypt, South Africa, Ghana. Thank you for being a part of this. And to our panelists, Mrs. Chidi Obiejesi, Dr. Basirat Akombi, Mr. Bola Abiodun, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your empathy and the depth of knowledge, as our participants have noted in the comments. Thank you very much for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria.
All right. Thank you.